Hello, you are watching Shalom World News. I'm Rory McLennan coming to you from Glasgow, Scotland. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. Pope Francis will be attending the COP28 climate conference when he will deliver a speech, hold private bilateral meetings and inaugurate the Faith Pavilion at Dubai's Expo City in the United Arab Emirates from December the 1st to December the 3rd. This is the first time a Pope will attend the United Nations annual environmental meeting. In his recent apostolic exhortation, Laudate Deum, Pope Francis referred to climate change as one of the principal challenges facing society and the global community. This will be Pope Francis' second visit to the United Arab Emirates. In February 2019, Pope Francis made history by becoming the first Pope to visit the Arabian Peninsula.
As per an official statement from the Vatican press office, the Holy Father is set to depart from Rome to Dubai on December 1. Upon his arrival at Dubai's World Central International Airport, a welcoming ceremony will greet him. On December 2, Pope Francis is slated to address participants at the COP28 summit, delivering his speech at Expo City, the summit's venue. He'll also participate in a series of private bilateral sessions throughout the day. On December 3, the Holy Father will inaugurate the Faith Pavilion. This collaborative effort, involving the United Nations Environment Program, the Holy See, the Muslim Council of Elders, and a coalition of religious partners, aims to send a message of peace to everyone on the planet. Pope Francis will conclude his visit with a farewell ceremony at Dubai's World Central International Airport before his departure. Several prominent figures are anticipated to attend COP28, including King Charles III, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, French President Emmanuel Macron, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of the United Kingdom, and President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan of the United Arab Emirates. Earlier in the year, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad received an invitation from the United Arab Emirates. News Desk, SW News.
The United States has said that Israel has agreed to implement 4-hour daily humanitarian pauses in its assault on Hamas in northern Gaza beginning Thursday. US President Joe Biden requested that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu implement the daily pauses during a call on Monday. US National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the Israelis have agreed to provide at least 3 hours' notice for each 4-hour window. Negotiations are underway to implement a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza for 3 days in return for the release of around 12 hostages held by Hamas. Meanwhile, the Chaldean Catholic Archbishop Bashar Warda shared his concern that a potential escalation of the conflict could result in a wave of migration into the Holy Land, which he said would be disastrous for the region's Christian community. He called on all leaders in the region to calm the situation. The United Kingdom's Home Secretary has accused the Metropolitan Police Service of showing bias and of adopting a more lenient approach to left-wing causes. Suella Braverman labelled pro-Palestinian protesters as mobs that pose a threat to the Jewish community. Several legislators have pushed Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to fire Ms Braverman due to her remarks. The government has voiced opposition to the weekly rallies held since Israel's retaliatory bombings in Gaza started last month, as they will clash with Armistice Day commemorations in London on the 11th of November. According to Metropolitan Police Chief Mark Rowley, the Met was determined to keep commemorative services safe, but could not ban the protests, as it did not have the power to do so. A British Army veteran is facing court on criminal charges related to praying silently outside an abortion facility in Bournemouth. According to the legal organisation Alliance Defending Freedom, Adam Smith-Connor pleaded not guilty to charges of breaking a municipal rule that created a so-called safe zone next to the facility. Lawyers say the entire case is a violation of Mr. Smith-Connor's fundamental right to freedom of thought. Legal action has been taken against Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer and others by the Right to Life of Michigan group and Republican lawmakers in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Michigan. The action concerns the Right to Reproductive Freedom Amendment, also known as Proposal 3, which added a provision to the state constitution guaranteeing a right to an abortion. The lawsuit claims that the amendment infringes on the First and 14th Amendments to the United States Constitution. State Representatives Gina Johnson and Luke Mearman and State Senator Joseph Bellino are among the plaintiffs in the action. According to legal opinion, Proposal 3 goes against the Constitution since it establishes a super right to abortion access by allowing the state to regulate abortions beyond fetal viability, while also claiming that the state cannot restrict abortions when supposedly medically required. The Chinese government is once again cracking down on religious freedom and education. State-run media has announced that the country has passed the Patriotic Education Law, further solidifying the government's hold over education, including religious education. The National People's Congress Standing Committee passed the new law, which mandates that churches and other religious organizations modify their educational programs to ally with the Chinese Communist Party's official platform. According to the new law, religious bodies must receive guidance and support from the state to carry out supposedly patriotic education programs that will strengthen religious professionals and adherents' identification with the Chinese people, culture, and the Chinese Communist Party. Irish church leaders have called on political parties to prioritise the common good. The Church Leaders Group of Ireland met the leaders of the 5 major political parties in Northern Ireland for a series of private talks emphasising the restoration of good governance in the province. Northern Ireland has been without an executive since February last year. The leaders of the Church of Ireland, the Methodist and Presbyterian churches in Ireland, the Roman Catholic Church and the Irish Council of Churches issued a joint statement highlighting the gravity of the situation. The leaders called on the UK government to take steps to facilitate the restoration of good governance. The Catholic Bishop of Nigeria's Sokoto Diocese is calling on the National Electoral Commission to gain the public's trust as the country gets ready for the off-cycle elections in Bayelsa, Imo and Kogi states on November the 11th. Noting that significant money has been set aside for the elections, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka has asked the Independent National Electoral Commission to stop complaining about a lack of resources. The prelate said the way the elections were conducted in March left much to be desired by the Electoral Authority. This second round of gubernatorial voting will compensate for the alleged anomalies of the March 18th polls. Bishop Kuka also demanded that the nation's institutions be improved and a stronger emphasis be placed on national issues. Various international organisations are calling for the immediate release of 2 women human rights defenders in Afghanistan who have been detained for over a month with no proper reason given for their arrest. The United Nations, the International Federation for Human Rights and the World Organization Against Torture are among the organisations that demanded the release of Neda Parwan and Zolia Parsi, who were detained by the Taliban last month. The Federation called on the diplomatic missions in Afghanistan to exert pressure on the Taliban to advocate for their safe release. The human rights organisation also pleaded with international players to back rights activists financially, protect them, and help them relocate anytime their lives are in danger. A federal court has granted legal protection to a pro-life non-profit run by Catholic sisters from New York government officials who sought to collect confidential information related to their provision of prenatal care to needy women. In Sisters of Life versus MacDonald, a group of Catholic nuns with a mission to help expectant women sought injunctive relief from a federal court to prevent enforcement of a statute that was established in the state of New York in 2022. But now, according to the injunction from the court, neither side may demand private customer data or threaten violators with legal action. After the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization leaked, New York's previous invasive act was approved. The government was then granted permission to conduct probes of pro-life pregnancy centres and collect data on individual women who had sought assistance. Missouri Republican Senator Eric Schmidt has asked the State Department for information on imprisoned Bishop Rolando Alvarez. On Wednesday, he issued a letter in which he inquired about the persecution of Christians in Nicaragua under the government of President Daniel Ortega. He said the government of Nicaragua had violated the rights of the Catholic population on several occasions. He stressed in his letter that he would stay relentless in seeking measures to guarantee Catholics are protected from persecution in Nicaragua and encouraged the Joe Biden administration to do the same. A law prohibiting minors from attending or participating in gay pride parades or other similar events has been enacted in the Brazilian city of João Pessoa. According to the initiative, these gatherings include any action taken by LGBT groups to raise public awareness of their campaigns. Those who breach the legislation will get a warning, and if the regulation is passed, the punishment for a second violation will be a large fine. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us again next time for more, and do remember you can always visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.